We're going to go to the phones. Steve in Canada. Aloha, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, I've been following you and your website since the online meter read about 275 people are online, and now it's reading about
that's a long time ago.
So that was a while ago, my friend.
Oh.
You've given me a lot of interesting information and stuff to think about over the years, that's for sure.
Oh,
so
good. That's what we try to do.
Some recent news, and I live in southwestern Ontario here, and we've got a local AM station that has talk radio, and it reaches about 500,000 people. And just in the last week, because of pressure from listeners emailing, calling in, all kinds of stuff, we have blown open the Gardasil vaccine debacle that's going on, and had experts actually talking about how dangerous the vaccine was on the show. And today was a doozy about Canada walking away from the Kyoto Accord in Durban, and basically our Prime Minister saying we're not doing anything more with this at all. And it was interesting. The show host had a couple of different political people and someone from the David Suzuki Foundation on, and they said their little bit. And once they got off, it was the call-in portion for 45 minutes. He had to extend it. It was going to be 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
He had to extend it to 45 minutes because the phones were so loaded. Not a single person called in and bought into the global warming thing. They all bashed these people that were supposed experts and supporters of it. It has swung so far since I first started calling into this radio station 4 or 5 years ago, after you exposed to me the global warming hoax, and you've started something. I mean, I started something, one little voice in a town calling in to the radio station and being called a kook and everything else, and yet I heard 40 people call in today, all back me up, and that never would have happened 5 or 6 years ago, man. So
it's all it takes is that one voice. It just takes that one voice.
It does, man.
Did you ever see the play Enemy of the People?
No.
Henrik Ibsen. Okay, well, they made it into a movie too, but there's this wonderful line in there where it says, we're always raised to think the majority is always right, but that's not true. The majority is always wrong, because before the majority can be right, only one man is going to be right. And while that one man is right, the majority is wrong. When you get out there and you make that phone call, when you show that courage of being able to stand up there and say, this is what I think is going on, you give courage to others to speak out. You let them know that they are not alone in thinking something is not right about what they're being told. And one of the biggest illusions... One of the biggest illusions the government and the media try and put out there is that if you're unhappy with the current political system, or if you think the global warming cult is lying, that you're all by yourself, you're a kook, you're an outsider, you should shut up, or your friends and neighbors will think ill of you. And now, of course, and we've reached the stage where we understand that's not true. We understand that this idea that we should stay silent in order to be approved of by our friends and neighbors is just another part of the big lie. And, thank you for what you did, calling into this radio station and starting that cascade of people. You're like that one little domino that V hits that starts that cascade all across the floor. And that's so, you get a cookie.
It's hard. It's really hard, man. I mean, I called into you probably about 3-4 years ago, and I was honestly, I was depressed and just didn't know which way to turn because of everything I had learned. I mean, my eyes have been opened to all the lies and everything else like that, and I thought, what do I do? And I was talking to people, and they all thought I was nuts, and my family thought I was nuts, and I had friends that just didn't even want to talk to me anymore, and I just kept on persevering, little tidbits here and there, dropping hints, sending the odd email, just not bombarding people with it.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Slowly but surely.
Well, a big part of that is the way we are indoctrinated, or if you prefer, brainwashed at a very, very young age to allow beliefs to shape our thought processes. And we got to take a commercial break here. But Steve, stick around. When I come back, I'm going to explain what it is that has gone wrong in the minds of people who do not want to look at the truth. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We all feel the frustration of trying to talk to people about things we know to be factually true, only to come up against this wall of belief in fairy tales, in propaganda. And the reason for that is, by design, we are all raised, indoctrinated, and brainwashed to allow beliefs to rule our mind. When you're a kid, believe in the fat guy from the North Pole, you'll get a bicycle. Believe in the bunny, you get Easter eggs. Believe in the tooth fairy, you get a nickel or a dollar in these inflated times. Don't think. Don't wait for proof. Doesn't matter how silly it sounds, just believe and all will be well. And they teach you that message when you are too young to understand that the big people are full of crap with all these things they're feeding you in Sunday school and kindergarten. And as you grow up, your identity, your personality form around those core beliefs. Beliefs become not a real accurate measure of what's going on in the universe, but part of your identity. And the proof is in the language. You don't see people walking around saying, I agree with and support the Republican platform. They say, I am a Republican. I am a Christian. I am a Muslim. I am an environmentalist. They become the thing that is being believed in. And because of that, any challenge to that belief system is interpreted as a personal attack. And they will respond as if it's a personal attack. And as you read through this latest batch of ClimateGate emails, you see that all the time, where every piece of contradictory information to the global warming agenda is reacted to on a personal level. We've got to destroy this person. We've got to revoke his PhD. We've got to get that editor out of there. Because they're on a crusade. They're not scientists anymore. This is the reason for scientific method, is the understanding that individual scientists are flawed and frail human beings who are just as capable of being bribed or motivated by ambition or religious dogma as anybody else. And beliefs are the chains that hold your free mind's slave. No chain of iron ever held a human being tighter than the chains made out of their beliefs. And ultimately, when we're through this crisis, when we are past this rush to war to save the money junkies, ultimately, I seek a world free from belief, where we are all unencumbered in terms of looking out at the world and seeing it as it truly is, and making our own best choices of how to live our lives within that, without being told to believe in benevolent government, and to believe that priests would never molest small children, and to believe that the world is getting warmer and it's all your fault. And so as you run into people and you're trying to lead them into the light, don't be surprised if they act like you are personally insulting them when they challenge their cherished beliefs, because in their mind, you are. Because they don't have an identity outside of the believed-in propaganda. And that is why propaganda done right can be so incredibly powerful. Why we, even today, still have people who are insisting that the United States government doesn't torture people, because they believe that. And they don't want to give up that belief because their identity is built on it. Canada is not the only nation that basically bowed out on Kyoto over at Durban. Actually, it's a huge walkout going on over there, especially for the ClimateGate 2 emails. It's the death knell. But the true believers are still out there, true believing. And we've seen how dangerous those people are. We saw that in Iraq prior to the war, where the true believers were in there saying, we can go in and we can commit these crimes and we can do these horrible things because we serve a higher purpose. We know the real game plan. We're not bound by the law because we have a noble purpose. And they get caught up in that belief. And once they're trapped by that belief, they lose all sense of reason and responsibility, and they do some really stupid and dangerous things. And that's another reason why we ought to be very, very careful who we allow the reins of civil power in this society. Because these true believers, when they get their hands on those controls, they can cause a lot of damage, like a New World War. Anyway, Steve, that's basically my explanation. And again, thank you for having the courage to call into the radio shows. Thank you for being that spark that sets the wildfire of truth across that entire market area. So well done, and thank you very much.
Here is your host, Michael Rivera.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here today. And before we go back to the phones here, this is completely at random, but I have been noticing on our TV and at the malls and everywhere, people aren't afraid to say Merry Christmas anymore. You know, like last year and the year before was, we don't say Merry Christmas anymore. It might offend somebody. We say Happy Holidays or something banal like that. And I've noticed this year, wow, there are Christmas special shows all over the place. And it's amazing. And I bring that up only because there was this story where apparently the Red Cross is telling all of their people that they may not use Merry Christmas because it might upset the Muslims. And I don't think so, because, the Muslims think Jesus is kind of cool, and they get into Christmas as well. I think it was somebody else who was complaining. Perpetual whiners here. But Merry Christmas, and I say that because our electronic Christmas cards are going out or have gone out, so if you're on our list, you probably got one already, or you will get it in the next couple of days. Anyway, Clint in Las Vegas. Aloha, Clint. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Hey, I lived with an Arab guy. He was from Saudi Arabia, and he was as nice a person as I ever met.
Mm-hmm.
It was back in '85, and I had virtually no complaints. So if everybody out there listening in Radio Land thinks that we should be scared of them, I think not.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about Newt Gingrich.
Before we go on to that,
it's my favorite topic.
Before we go on to that, I basically want to concur with what you said, because I remember, even way back when I was a kid doing, junk work and stuff, I remember this Persian guy was working with us, was always polite, very nice. I remember when I was working in one of the visual effects shops in Los Angeles, Muslim gentleman had the cubicle next to me, had these wonderful little sesame candies he was always sharing. Ginger, oh wow, incredibly good ginger candies. Just very polite. I have never met a Muslim person who was not somebody I would want to have in my home. And yeah, it is. We're finding out the FBI is deliberately setting people up to try and demonize them. And what the FBI is doing to demonize the Muslims is the exact mirror of what the Gestapo was doing to set up and demonize the Jews in Nazi Germany. We've been down this road before.
Financed by Wall Street.
Yeah.
Financed by Wall Street.
Yes, absolutely.
By the way.
Yeah, get everybody fighting each other, loan them money for bullets, and loan them money to rebuild. It's a scam. It's a big, huge scam.
Well, hey, Mike, can I throw this in before I go to my next topic? I want to just say that I bought a Holy Quran, and you know what? I got to admit, you don't have to be an atheist. You could be, if you read the Book of Mormon or you read the Bible, and then you read this, and it has the same type of things in it. So, this thing that, wow, they want to start a holy war, and that's, Mike, that's such total BS.
Of course it is total. Of course it is. I think one of my favorite lines out of the movie V for Vendetta is when, the guy who runs the comedy show, he's showing to Evie his little hidden secret room, and he says, he shows her this Quran. And she says, "Are you Muslim?" He says, "Of course not. I'm in television." But you don't have to be a Muslim to appreciate the literature that's in there. And, that's absolutely...
You don't have to be a Muslim to appreciate his poetry and his beauty.
Yeah.
I think that's what he said.
I think that, I think that was, it's a great line. And it absolutely says that, whether you believe or not, there's a lot of literature in there, as long as you understand that it's metaphorical and a lot of it, there's some very twisted stuff there in the Old Testament and the Torah and the Talmud and everything, but you work around that and you say, yeah, there's some stuff we should talk about. That's it for our show. We'll be back tomorrow here on the Jeff Rense Radio Network. Until then, stay safe, stay angry, speak out every chance you can get. We're in a fight against fascism, and aloha, America.